Welcome back in to the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper. I've got my good buddy, Graham Haney, here with me today, and we're going to break down Week 8 of college football, and we're going to start with the third Saturday in October, Alabama versus Tennessee. But before we hop into that, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and hit that notification bell. It helps us a ton, and we truly appreciate it. But Graham, let's jump right in to the action. And Graham, what a game this was, man. I had the honor of being in attendance at Bryant-Denny Stadium for this 37-20 victory for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I've got a few takeaways that I have from being there, but I want to first ask you, overarching takeaway, kind of like we do every week, what stood out to you about this performance from Alabama?
Yeah, good to be back with you, Hampton. I just want to preface the conversation that we're about to have with this statement, with an asterisk right here. As a person who used to live in Tennessee, I cannot stand Tennessee. I can't stand them. I cannot
Put
stand
all the cards on the table, baby.
I just want to put that out there. I don't want, this show, we don't want to show bias, but I'm going to just go and tell you straight up. I do not like Tennessee. That's just that. Okay. We'll continue. So, overarching theme of the game, Alabama, not the prettiest game overall, but man, we had some big plays on defense and some big plays on offense. And I think that's the difference in the game overall, the third Saturday in October, was the difference in big plays. Man, we saw Alabama have really big plays on defense with a 99-yard touchdown return from Xavier Brown. Napier is a menace in the backfield, forcing a big safety against Tennessee. But then you look on the reverse of that, Tennessee had several major runs. Two of like 40 plus, mm-hmm. 4 touchdowns against Alabama, which really made the Alabama defense look, I'm not going to say foolish, but
couple of the players for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Just want to start off with that, man. Big plays is the name of the game for this one, and Alabama just happened to have a few more of them. You look at the performances by offense and defense. Let's look at offense first. Alabama really struggled to run the football, but by committee was able to get a little over 100 yards on the ground. But as we've seen all year, the bread and butter for Alabama has been this passing attack. And Hampton, I think we can say it, and I think it's because of what we talked about last week on the pod. Ryan Williams is back for Alabama. Had some major catches in big-time plays, big-time moments. And when you look at the catches he made, several of them were ones where 2 weeks ago he would have dropped it. Or he wouldn't have, he wouldn't be able to secure the catch, would have been out of bounds. But, man, I just want to say that Ryan Williams had a heck of a game. His focus was on point. The performance was on point, and it was crucial to Alabama's success. And, man, it's good to see Ryan Williams back in Crimson, making plays for the Crimson Tide. You can pass it, pass the ball to anybody else. But when the ball goes to Ryan Williams, you just feel different as an Alabama fan. We've seen that Jeremy Bernard and Lazier Brooks have made big plays for this Alabama offense, but it's just different when Ryan Williams makes those plays because he's at that upper echelon of talent in college football. And, man, it's a good feeling when you know that he's back for Alabama. And I think that only helps Alabama moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that, Graham. And to me, 2 things. Alabama is the first SEC team in history to defeat 4 straight ranked opponents in a row without a bye to help break it up. That in and of itself is super impressive. Nick Saban never did that. Kirby Smart has never done that. Steve Sarkisian has never done that. Many of the greats in the sport just haven't done that, but Kalen DeBoer in his second year at Alabama did. And I think that's a testament to him, testament to the staff, and testament to those players. Because, I said after the Florida State game that Alabama played soft, and they did in that game. And you and I both, to our credit, we were very disappointed, very worried about the direction of the team, but we said we have to see the response, and you have a chance to do that. You have a chance to go out on the field week in and week out and change the narrative and flip it, and they have done that. Ever since that loss, they have gone to work during the week, and they've gone out on Saturday and taken care of business. And I think, again, the resolve, the competitive character, the willingness, and the ability to overcome adversity. When something bad happens on offense, the defense covers. When something bad happens against the defense, the offense will cover for them. That is complementary football, and again, that is something that Alabama has not been doing last year under Kellen DeBoer, but really under Nick Saban, his final 3 years. That was something that this team struggled with. And I think one thing that I really noticed to me in this game that was a little bit different, I felt against Missouri, Vanderbilt, and Georgia to an extent, Alabama really controlled those games, but they would make a key mistake in a critical moment or wouldn't make a play that would put the game away, that made the game a little closer at the end than it should have been. In this game, you have the big play by Xavier Brown, which we'll talk in depth, and I'll just, I'll be upfront and honest with everybody. I was in the stadium, and when that play happened, one, it's probably the loudest I've ever heard Bryant Denny, but I was like a sorority girl on bid day, baby. I was losing my ever-loving mind, and yelling so much that my pure abs and core were hurting because I was that tense. I mean, it was just absolute cinema. It was a great moment, a great play by him. But with that being said, they come out in the second half, they get the ball, they go 3 and out. And what have we said? What was the final word that we had on Alabama last week? They're lacking the killer instinct. When you got a team down, chop their head off. Don't give them an ounce of life. Well, they did in that scenario, and Tennessee went down, I believe, the next drive and scored. But then what did Alabama do? Not the next drive, but the drive after that, they went down and scored, extended the lead back to 17, and then they kind of kept the, pedal to the metal and never really gave Tennessee much of a chance to make that a one-score game after that because the offense did what they needed to do, and the defense came up with big turnovers and big plays in critical moments. I think this was a step in the right direction for this team, and I also could tell this team needs a bye week. This team is very banged up. I thought they played with incredible effort, but especially defensively in the second half, I think you could kind of see the wear and tear over the past 4 weeks coming into effect, which is expected, everyone. Nobody in the country has, I'm not going to say nobody in the country. There are other SEC teams that have had a gauntlet of games. But when you have Georgia, Vandy, Mizzou, and then Tennessee all in a row, there's going to be a cumulative effect that happens to your football team, and I think this team really needs a bye week. They got another test with South Carolina next week, if they win that one, then they get a bye week to kind of recover before the final stretch run. But overall, couldn't be more proud of this team, how they responded, how Kalen DeBoer has taken hold of this team. Ty Simpson has taken a hold of this team and really honed them in. There's a renewed focus, renewed determination. And last thing before I ask you about your offensive thoughts, Graham, one thing that I loved before the game, and I think they captured it on TV if I'm not mistaken, but, during the pregame walkout, they're playing Thunderstruck and everybody's losing their mind. They show Kalen DeBoer in the tunnel. And my boy KDB was fired the heck up. Like, he hit the goalpost and was like yelling, "Let's go." I mean, it got me juiced. I can't lie to you. It got me a little bit off my feet, about 2 inches off the ground. I love what this team has shown and what they're about. They're a gritty bunch who still has another level to reach. And to win games when you're not playing A-plus ball, I think is a testament to how great the potential your team has. So, Graham, you can react to any of that I said. But offensively, I want you to talk about how you thought Ty Simpson did. But you mentioned the running game, and we had some people ask in our group me, why can't Alabama run the ball? What did you see on the couch as to why Alabama had a little bit of difficulty running it effectively against that Tennessee defense?
Yes, good question. Just want to point out that I don't like Tennessee, and so that would very much be a part of my answer. And Hampton, this might draw a little bit of hate, a little bit of controversy, but as an Alabama sports fan, I do not like Tennessee more than I do not like Auburn. I would I would
Wow.
rather Alabama lose to Auburn every year as long as we beat Tennessee. I'm fine with that. You know, like when it comes down to it, if it's one or the other, I'd rather beat Tennessee than beat Auburn. But you didn't ask that question.
Those 2 years in Nashville must have done a work on you, son.
It did. It did. Let me go back to your question. And as we look at the offense, I will say this: Ty Simpson was again efficient, but we saw moments where some of his decision making was not up to levels that it has been in previous weeks. We saw some throws that made KDB made me probably made you go,
Yeah.
kind of hesitate and say, "Oh no, that's not a good decision. Don't do that." And then he did it. It didn't end up hurting Alabama, but that led to like you said, going right after halftime, a 3-and-out on the first drive after half, really trying to put Tennessee down and 3-and-out. And then there was another 3-and-out later in the game where Alabama had some momentum, 3-and-out, back off the field.
Yeah.
Hampton, I want to give some credit. I'm not going to overanalyze the offense because I think the storyline was similar to what I talked about earlier. It was just the ability to make big plays on offense and clutch plays. And obviously Ryan Williams being back is probably more of a storyline than anything else that happened in the game. But I want to give credit to the offensive line for a good job of pass blocking protection for Ty Simpson. Tennessee had 0 sacks on the night. And yes, this Tennessee defense is not anywhere close to what it was last year. Had 2 first-round picks on their defensive line last year. I know one, I think 2.
At least one, yeah.
Yeah, at least one. But a different defense. And so Alabama's pass blocking was very good. No sacks for Tennessee. Kept Ty Simpson clean most of the night. But Hampton, like you did say, and it's been a point, and it kind of continues, Alabama's rushing attack was not very good. And I won't just say it's not very good. It's obviously just not good enough for this Alabama team to be as good as they need to be going forward. I feel like part of that is, the predictability of Alabama running the football. We saw that, time and time again. And have all year, but especially last night. Jam Miller had 12 carries for 15 yards. I mean, really just non-existent.
That was his stat line?
12 for 15. He did score a touchdown, which was a good toss play. But, man, Daniel Hill had 34 yards. Jerry Bernard led the backfield with 49, but a big one of those was the broken play that he was able to get 10 or 15 on, which really saved Alabama from being behind the chains big time. But
I ask you a question on that play.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you like that play call?
I don't mind I don't mind the going for it, but if you'll watch the film back, what happens is they throw the swing to Jerry Bernard way behind the line,
Lateral.
and then it was lateral. They had Cuevas lined up on the end of the line, in a sense, kind of in the tackle position, but he was eligible, and you see him take off down the field. And so I think what the goal was that we toss it to Jerry Bernard. Yeah. Cuevas would drag like everybody else going back the other direction because it's like, Cuevas is he's eligible, and then he takes off running, so that hopefully the linebackers and safeties will go with him if they don't press on Bernard, but to which would set up Ty Simpson with the throwback. But obviously that didn't work. That did not work, and I think the I think the reason why it did not work was that we threw the swing pass to the wide side of the field. So we were throwing it all the way across to Jeremy Bernard, and then Jeremy was going to have to throw it all the way back across to Ty Simpson. I felt there's just too much space in the play because it has to. You've got to make it where the linebackers and safeties feel like they have enough, like they can get there. So I would have liked to see that more in a more condensed field.
Yeah.
Maybe running from the mid to right hash or right hash to where linebackers and safeties are saying, "Oh, I can get him. He's right there," and then you throw back to Ty with open space. But I didn't. I'm not gonna say that I didn't hate the play, but I think it's again if it worked out better, then it would have been completely different, and then it'd been the best play call ever. Great coaching. They set him up perfectly. But I think that I will give credit. Jeremy Bernard did make the most of his opportunities on the ground. A big reverse, but that was Ryan Williams with the reverse. But Jeremy Bernard really came in clutch, getting 49 yards on the ground, and just kind of was that extra little element that Alabama's offense needed, considering they couldn't get the running game going. Daniel Hill really showed up second half and played well and was very physical on the ground. But I think part of the reason why Daniel Hill was successful and Jam Miller was not as successful, Jam Miller, as we've said time and time again, is a north-south running back. He's a one-cut, go straight. He's a one-cut, go north. Whereas you would see some of the play calling that Alabama did running the ball, especially on second and long, would be to attempt to have Jam Miller have an outside run, which is east-west, which is not his strong suit. It's not his strength. And so you would see Alabama gain 1 or 2 yards on first down. It'd be 2nd and 8, hand it off and lose 4 or 5 yards and end up being worse than what they started as. It'd be 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that schematically and coaching-wise, we've got to do a better job of getting Jam Miller with the ball going downhill, which I think will help him in a sense. I do think that Tennessee was really committing to stopping the run, and there was not much room there for Jam Miller to make plays. Offensive line's got to do better in run blocking. But I think if you're going to have one or the other, this Alabama team, they're most successful when they're throwing the football. So I would rather have a clean pocket for Ty Simpson to throw in than for Jam Miller to run for 100, 150, because we know how much Ryan Grubb likes to throw the ball and how much more explosive Alabama's offense is when they throw the ball. And we've seen all year that Alabama's just not a very explosive team on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with all that, Graham. And I'll touch on the points that you made and kind of give my analysis, and then we can kind of go from there. Talked about Ty. I don't think it was Ty's best game. I thought he played really, really well. Yeah. But there were a couple of instances, I'm thinking, and I'm sure you are too, that 3rd and 1 where he rolls out and he has Germ. He doesn't throw a Germ, or he could have ran it. And he throws it across to Cuevas and it pops up in the air, and that was bad. And I don't think they showed it on the TV copy. And just full disclosure, I've not been able to watch the whole game on the TV copy. But DeBoer comes out on the field and is like, yelling at him, like, throw it in. It was a poor decision by Ty, trying to do too much, which, again, he's only in his 7th game starting. But I felt like he didn't hold on to the ball nearly as long as he did against, like, Vandy, where he held on to the ball a little too long at times, trying to make something happen. I thought that he did a better job of recognizing pre-snap pressure and really setting protections, checking plays audibly and doing all that kind of stuff. Pre-snap at the line of scrimmage, I thought he was really, really good on in this game. And I thought he threw the deep ball pretty well. I know that one he threw to Ryan on the first drive was an absolute beauty, and I'll get to Ryan here in a minute. And then he had another one to Ryan that had a PI call. He had 2 throws to Lotzier. One, he overthrew Lotzier, but I think Lotzier kind of stopped running for just half a second. If he had ran all the way through, that would have been a touchdown, in my opinion. And then the other one where he underthrew him, he just threw it too late, in my opinion. He was open for a little longer, and if he gets that ball out sooner, he hits him about that front pylon. And I think that would have been a better thing, a better throw and better timing from Ty. But overall, thought he played really well. Again, getting Alabama in the right plays, in the right protections, limiting negative plays, all of that kind of stuff, I think is critical to this offense and their success. They were 5 of 11 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down. That's winning football in the SEC. And just overall, I thought he played a really good game. Wide receivers, I'll touch on them, and I'll touch on the running backs last. But Ryan, that is the best game he's played all year, bar none. He caught the ball with his hands, which we have been begging on this show for him to do. And to me, there was a different and a heightened level of, I don't know, laser focus from him last night, like focusing on the details, just going out and playing ball, executing your assignment and doing your job. And I think, Ty even talked about it after the game that I think Ryan has kind of been, maybe with all the expectations and everything on his shoulders coming into the year, just kind of overthinking it a little bit. And, Ty told him, like, just go be you, dude. Like, go play your game, go make big-time plays, and I think he did that last night. I thought he was really, really good, and Alabama's going to need that down the stretch because I love Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard is awesome, and he proved it again last night on that, that trick play. Turning that play into a 25-yard gain was unbelievable. I mean, and he had a couple like that last night where he broke a few tackles in the open field, made someone miss, but Ryan has magic. When he gets the ball in his hands in open field, there are things that he can do that only few humans on this earth can do. And I think that is the difference with Ryan. And I'm proud that he had a bounce back game. I thought Lazier played really well, even though that drop that he had on third down, I think it was on the second or third drive of the game, it was a big drop because I think that was going to move the chains and kind of keep Alabama going and kind of put further pressure, I think, on Tennessee. But overall, I thought that unit played well. Shout out to Rico Scott for getting a touchdown. The offensive line overall, Michael Carroll started at right tackle, but Wilkin Formby still did play a lot. Thought overall in pass protection, that unit did really well. Geno Vandermark on the first drive had some yikes reps. I think of the first run of the game where he let the guy go right by, and then I think on the third down throw to Cuevas, like Ty did a great job of evading pressure and delivering a strike, but it wasn't a good rep by Geno. And so that unit, I think, played much better than they did against Missouri. And against that Tennessee front, like you said, Graham, yeah, they lost talent. But coming into that game, I believe they were first in the SEC in sacks. They had 26 on the year. To hold, them to 0 sacks, I think is really impressive. So good job by that unit overall. I think there are still some things that need to be sorted out for sure. And then we get to the running backs. And no, Jam Miller did not have a good game. But to me, the fact that Jam even played in that game after suffering the concussion that he did was impressive in its own right. I don't think he probably should have been out there. He didn't look right to me. We've seen Jam play better ball this year than the Missouri game, and I don't think we should judge him based off of one game. Like we shouldn't judge Daniel Hill based off of week 1 and week 2 where he didn't play well either, So I think you're going to get better ball from Jam because, again, he played well against Georgia, played really well against Vandy, solid against Missouri, and you know what you get with Jam. That's the thing. Again, not an elite back by any stretch of the imagination, but does the little things right, keeps the chains moving. But if Daniel Hill can kind of come along, and he's had a good game against Missouri, and now this week, I think he gives you a different dynamic in that running game with his physicality. He moves really well for his size, and I think you can do a lot of different things with him. So overall, I think the real reason that they weren't able to run the ball well is because Tennessee was doing a lot to commit a lot of resources to stopping the run with putting guys in the box, stunning their defensive line to make it really hard for Alabama's offensive line to block and get movement and kind of get some creases for the running backs to go through. And I think Ryan Grubb can do a better job, and this is my only qualm with him really in this game. The 2 3-and-outs that Alabama had followed the exact same script. You run on first down, you get nothing. Then you run on second down, and you lose yardage. And then it's 3rd and long, and you throw in it's incomplete. Like, I'm all about balance for sure. Like, you got to have balance. But sometimes when your quarterback is dealing, and there were times that last night where Ty was really in a rhythm, and they had no answers for any of the receivers in the passing attack that Alabama had, just let him cook. Let him cook. Like you said, Jameson North and South runner. Why are we running outside zone with him and letting Tennessee get upfield when they were being really aggressive throughout the night? But overall, I thought he did a good job mixing up formations like he usually does, implementing more of the screen game. Even though he kind of went to that too many times at a couple points throughout the game. But I thought the offense probably played like a B- to B game. But to put 37 points up against that defense, I think is really impressive, Graham.
Yeah, I agree. In these big moments like this, these big games where you're playing a top team in Tennessee, number 11 at the time, sometimes you just got to win. Just find ways to win. And it doesn't matter if it's pretty, doesn't matter if it's ugly. If you just win, that's enough. And so you look at the offense against Tennessee, not the most efficient it's ever been, not the prettiest it's been, not the statistics, driven and stats performance and outcome that you would expect. But you get the job done, you do what's important, and ultimately when the game's on the line and Tennessee starts to fight back, especially in that second half, what do? You respond the right way. You go down, you put up points. You respond well, you go down, you put up points. Whereas, I think we can name it. In years past, when things like that happen, Alabama's not able to respond how they need to appropriately.
Yep.
So, like I said, Hampton, I totally agree with you, and I think it's a big point in the game that Alabama has been banged up, that they've been put through a gauntlet of a schedule. Got South Carolina on the road coming up. South Carolina, haven't had the best season yet, but we know they're not going to go down without a fight. As long as Shane Beamer's head coach of South Carolina, they're going to have some wrinkles, some things that they put in that Alabama has not seen and would not expect. But man, if we can get through that, you feel good going through the rest of the season, knowing that we'll have a break, get some guys healthy, and have some fresh legs going forward.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree with you more, Graham. But before we transition to the defense, you made a point about the offense. When they were needed the most, they responded. I think nothing encapsulates that more than the third drive of the third quarter, 9 plays, 99 yards, and you end in the end zone.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't happen last year. That doesn't happen in 23. It's just the facts. It is what it is. And I think it's a testament, again, to the quarterback, to the confidence that the play caller has in the quarterback, that on the first play of that 99-yard drive, you call a pass, you get it out quick to Ryan Williams and let him get 14 yards. And again, efficiency, sustained drives being the name of the game, I think is just pivotal. And again, I still think we say this week after week after week, there's another gear for this offense. I truly believe it. They just got to clean little things up. And your hope is that by the end of the year, you're firing on all cylinders. Because I think they're close, but there's a little bit more work to be done. So great job by the offense. Great job by Grubb, Ty, KDB, and the gang. Let's move over to the defense. And I'll kind of set the tone with this statement, and then I want to get your reaction, Graham. Coming into this game, Tennessee was the number 1 point per game offense in the country. They were scoring 48.5 points per game. They had not scored less than 34 points before last night, where Alabama held them to 20. Yes, Alabama gave up some yards. There are issues that need to be addressed for sure, and we'll kind of talk about some things that I think, I wouldn't say they're alarming, but they may get you beat down the line. But what did you take away from this unit? and their performance on Saturday against Tennessee and Joey Aguilar, who I thought Joey played a pretty good game. Like, he showed you why he's one of the better quarterbacks in this conference with the way that he handled pressure, delivered throws under pressure, off platform, and everything. I thought he actually, aside from a mistake or two, played a really good game.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Joey Aguilar's a talented quarterback, and they spoke about it during the game, which I guess I didn't even notice or really haven't put the pieces together. But Greg McElroy was talking about how uh, Tennessee could do things this year on offense that they couldn't do last year because of the difference in quarterback play in Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava in the throws that Joey Aguilar can make. I guess I never really considered that into the equation when it came to Tennessee, but it was a solid point. I want to say this, that Alabama started off the game on defense very well. I felt like they were very prepared for what Tennessee was going to throw at them, in the sense of we played good assignment football. We kept our eyes in the right place. And, if you can keep Tennessee off the board the first two drives of the game, that really changes how successful Tennessee will be going forward. And, man, I think as you look throughout the whole night, Alabama, as good as they were and as bad as they were at times, they made Tennessee drive the football. Very rarely was it one play touchdowns or second play touchdowns. It was Tennessee put pieces together, put plays together, and then they have a big shot where they were able to score. Two of the big concerning plays had to be those run plays by Deshaun Bishop. Seems like a very talented running back, no doubt, and was able to make cuts on our linebackers and safeties that I don't think that our linebackers and safeties had seen somebody that was capable of doing that. Ahmad Hardy, really good at Missouri, but did a good job of cutting back against Alabama, but Alabama was there to contain. Whereas whenever Deshaun Bishop cut back against Alabama, nobody was there. I think part of that had to do with alignment, but I think Tennessee did a really good job of, if you watch the tape back, Alabama would have 3 down linemen, or if they had 4, our linebackers that came to fill gaps were getting pushed out by Tennessee linemen. So there was very obvious cutback lanes that Deshaun Bishop was able to take advantage of. And credit to Tennessee for making those adjustments and really putting that out there. I think Alabama might need to look at that, to implement some themselves, just for these big run plays for that. Since like I said, they were kind of running, not necessarily, they weren't running counter, but just it would be a cutback lane 1 or 2 yards down the field where Deshaun Bishop was able to take advantage of. So it was like Alabama did a good job on initial pressure, initial gaps, and then Tennessee, did a good job of filling in and having a guard or tackle push one out of the way, and kind of get 2 guys in one gap for Alabama, and then there was a hole for Deshaun Bishop there. We know that in the past few years that Josh Heupel's offense with Tennessee has been run first and run heavy. They can do whatever they want to do when they're able to run the football. Alabama gave up 140 yards on the ground, which was a lot. 123 of those came from Deshaun Bishop. So I will say that while not great at times, Alabama did a decent job of containing Tennessee's run game, making them force 3rd and longs, and making Joey Aguilar, in a sense, do what he was not comfortable doing, which was stepping up in a pocket when he's being pressured, making decisions when he's got a lot in his face. And I mean, just credit to Alabama's defense for that. We've heard about it. We've talked about it. Napier had a great game, and it just seems like he's just like his trajectory is just going so much in the right direction, and so much improvement that you see. It's like you saw him last week and the week before that against Vanderbilt and Missouri be one step away from a sack or one step away from a big tackle for loss, and it seemed like finally he was able to make up that one step against Tennessee this week. Had 3 big sacks, one on the opening drive, one that forced the safety, and then one later on in the game. It just not only just big sacks, but big sacks at big moments, forcing Tennessee to either be a 3rd down and them have to punt, either be in the end zone to be a safety, or just a moment where you kind of take away all the momentum that Tennessee had going for them. We saw times where Alabama's defense on the back end probably gave Tennessee too much space, but I think that the way that Kane Womack's system is kind of implemented is a bend don't break. So we're going to give up some plays down the field, but just know you're not going to beat us over the top. Which, when you've looked at Alabama and Tennessee in the past, and Tennessee and Georgia earlier this year, Tennessee's best plays and biggest plays when they can beat you over the top. And they mentioned it during the game, and I just want to point this out there, that I think part of that is that Tennessee's depth of wide receiver is not what it has been. So what Tennessee likes to do is run their receivers deep, swap their receivers out, run them deep again. And so our cornerbacks, you really got to decide whether you're going to keep playing the same running back, cornerbacks that are tired, safeties that are tired, nickels that are tired, or do you going to swap them out for somebody that might not be as good? This year, Tennessee doesn't have the guys to do that, so they're not able to do it as much and as often and frequent as they have been in the past. So, although it wasn't pretty, you held them to 20 points. And when it came down to it, Tennessee looking to, almost really seal it going into halftime. Big pick six, 99 yards down the field. And not only, just changed the complete momentum of the game and really made it where you're going into halftime feeling really confident instead of just, I think we can win. You really knew it. So, was it great? No, but good enough is good enough for me.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, to hold an offense that, again, the lowest amount of points that they had scored all year was 34. They were averaging 48.5. Holding them to 20, no matter how you did it, is impressive. Yes, there are things that need to be cleaned up. No doubt about it. I'm going to kind of start with the negative, and then we're going to end on a happy note, and I'm going to give some guys some kudos who I thought played really well. But you mentioned it. Josh Heupel is a run-first guy. They try to engineer second and manageable, third and manageable. That way, they can then take shots downfield. In the first half especially, I thought Alabama did a really, really good job on Tennessee's run game. And throughout the game, they did a great job of, like you said, Graham, making them methodically move the ball down the field, which is not what they want to do. Because like you said, when they played Georgia, it was bombs away, bombs away, bombs away. They had like 3 or 4 scores on long vertical passes down the field. Alabama didn't allow that, which I think is what you couldn't do against this unit. Make them earn it, make them play out of their comfort zone. And when you're defending the run against Tennessee, they're very hard to defend the run against because they play a lot of those wide splits. So what does that mean? That means you have less guys in the box to defend the run. And so they kind of have a numbers advantage from a schematic perspective. And so everybody's got to be on their P's and Q's. And I think what happened in the second half, that's to me is where their running game really got going. Because at one point, Beanie Bishop had 11 carries for 11 yards, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked up at the video board. So they were doing a good job of limiting him. But then, like you said, they had that explosive run for a touchdown where, God love him, man, Deontay Lawson, I just don't think he's healthy. That knee isn't right. And, when he cut back his way, the lack of a change of direction from him was terrible. He played on his heels for a lot of the game. There were other plays when I saw highlights where Tennessee's run the ball well. He'll either go in the wrong gap or he misses the tackle. I just don't think overall that he played a really good game from a performance-based perspective of, making tackles, being in the right gap and everything. I know he does a good job of orchestrating the defense and getting everybody else lined up, and being that steady leadership presence, but I don't think he had a very good game overall. And I think that's where a lot of the runs in the second half, the success with that came from guys not executing. There were plays to be had. There was one in particular, I believe it was in the fourth quarter. You have 2 guys that meet Beanie Bishop in the hole and they have an opportunity to tackle him and you don't get him to the ground, then it turns into a 14 or 15-yard gain. That simply can't happen. But again, I want to give a little bit of grace because they did a really good job against Missouri, aside from the one run that they popped when Alabama wasn't set of defending the run. I think they kind of wore down a little bit in the second half. And again, the cumulative effect of playing high-level opponents week after week, it eventually does take its toll. And Alabama's already injured up front with Quay Russaw out, with Jeremiah Beeman out, some other guys banged up. That is going to have an effect at some point in the game. And I thought you saw that to an extent. But also, Tennessee's just a really good offense. Sometimes when the other team makes the play, you got to give them credit. They got a really good scheme, and they do a really good job of giving Aguilar quick, simple reads and answers when Alabama brought pressure, and it felt like they made them pay for it about every time that they did. I mean, I was yelling from the stands like, stop blitzing him, because they were making it too easy. There was one play in particular on the fourth down, which that was another thing Alabama did not do a good job of, was getting off the field on fourth down. But they ran like a rub route with Miles Kitselman. Well, they were playing man-to-man. There's no way that Bray Hubbard can get over there. He has to go over the top of two receivers. It's a natural rub. And that's just, you got to tip your cap to the other coordinator. They get paid too, and Josh Heupel is one of the best offensive minds in football. But overall, I thought they played a really good game. I want to highlight, like you said, Yonze Pierre. I feel he has been getting better and better and better. You saw it against Georgia, more against Vandy, more against Mizzou. But this game, he had true opportunity rush the passer, which is what he does best. And he made the most of it. And it wasn't like he was getting home where they didn't block him, like where it was like a stunt or a twist where one guy occupied the blocker and he ran free. No, it was him working with his hands, doing swim moves, doing a wide or variety of pass rush moves to get to the quarterback, or sometimes just straight bull rushing the right tackle into Joey Aguilar's lap like he did on that safety on the intentional grounding call. I thought he played great. I thought Xavier Brown, again, the play before the half was monumental. It was outstanding. I don't know why Tennessee's running a play action there, to be quite honest with you, when Alabama kind of knew that they were going to have to throw the ball because they didn't have any timeouts left. And that gave Xavier more time to get over to the flat. It wasn't a good throw. And part of the reason it wasn't a good throw is because Yonze did a great job of attacking, getting in Aguilar's face and having him throw off his back foot a little bit. That he won't get the credit that he deserves for that. That was another great play by him. I thought he played well. Some other guys on the D-line I thought played well. Dijon Lee has some up and down moments. But Bray Hubbard had a good game, Keon Sabb. But the guy that I thought really came in and changed the game and gave a little bit of juice, Red Morgan. Red Morgan came in for Deshaun Jones, I believe it was after the first touchdown that Tennessee had where they kind of picked on Day a little bit. Red Morgan came in and did, I thought, a really good job off of, just first watch. He set the edge really well. He tackled, which we know is a big part of his game as being a physical football player. And so I want to give shout out to that kid because I thought he played really, really well. Overall, you got to give credit to Kane Womack and that staff. Before this game, I got to give a shout out to Clint Lamb over at Cover Crimson for this stat. 6 games into the year, Tennessee had allowed 4 sacks all season. They allowed 4 last night versus Alabama. So, very good job by that defensive front. Let's see how Alabama, again, I think they're getting better and better on defense. There are definitely some things from a run fit perspective, from an eye discipline, gap integrity. All that stuff still needs to be worked on. But I think this unit is really rounding into form and has over the past 4 weeks, Graham. You got anything else to say about this game before we kind of move on to the other news of the day? Or newses of the day?
Yeah, it's always nice when Alabama wins. Even better when you win against somebody that you do not like and get some revenge. Against Tennessee, we'll just leave that at that. No more Tennessee hate from me on this podcast, unless something else just comes up and I just have to say it. But good to be an Alabama fan today, and man, good things going forward.
Yeah. Well, Graham is given the guy that, the infamous, they low down, they dirty, they some snitches. I hate that orange. He's giving that guy a run from his money today with his Tennessee hate. But
I feel like we would be very good friends. I feel like we'd be very good friends if we were to ever meet in person. I feel like we'd be very good friends.
definitely kindred spirits, I think. But
No doubt, no doubt.
in all good fun. Again, a big credit to Alabama. You got one more test that you better come ready to play because South Carolina is in wounded animal mode. They are desperate and they need this win. They're 3-4. But I think if you show up and you play the way you've been playing, you shouldn't have an issue winning that ball game. They're just not a very good ball club right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do that, get a bye, and then really it sets up very nicely for Alabama the final 4 games of the year. And I've really enjoyed watching the growth of this team and how they have responded to that FSU loss. FSU won and is going down to the crapper, and Alabama lost and has risen to number 4 in the AP poll. And I think it's a credit to them. And last note on Tennessee, I think they're still a very good football team. They're going to be a pain in the tush for anybody to play. And again, give credit and hats off to them for giving Alabama a very competitive ball game. But Graham, let's close the book on the third Saturday in October, and let's talk about some of the happenings around college football. Because, my friend, there were a lot of great games yesterday. We're going to get into a few of them. But how about we start with coaching news? Kind of like we did last week. James Franklin got fired last week. Well, Billy Napier, after beating Mississippi State, why don't you fire him before, when you lost to A&M on the road? I don't quite understand that. You're going to let him win a game and then fire him? Doesn't make any sense to me. But he gets fired. That job is open. I mentioned Florida State. They lost to Stanford, who is Stinky Bodinky. Now, all the power brokers at FSU are convening. Looks like he may be out in 24 hours. And then there are a couple other guys that we're keeping our eye on that we won't hit in this portion. We'll kind of talk about their games and then kind of the ramifications from that. But, I mean, what do you make of Billy getting canned at Florida and then Mike Norvell possibly going from the crown of college football in week 1 to being out of a job less than 6 or 7 weeks later?
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in your segue there. We closed the book on Alabama, Tennessee, and we're going to close the book on Billy Napier's time in Gainesville. Man, Billy Napier's a guy that, Hampton, you and I both really raved about whenever Florida made this hire a few years ago, that he did a really good job as head coach of Louisiana Lafayette, had some experience as a position coach at a lot of big programs with a lot of big name teams, which usually leads to large levels of success. And, for whatever reason, Billy was just never able to figure it out in Gainesville. Not in a successful enough manner to keep his job or to really, build a contender in Gainesville, Florida. I think that part of it was, it seems like some of the forces were against him from the beginning, that whenever, similar to Brian Harsin at Auburn, that whenever they made the hire, there were some people that were just never on board with that, and that was never good enough for them. And so he didn't have full support and full backing at any point. So he was kind of, playing with some things that, working against him. But man, you look at it, Florida's had their highs and lows, but I think we're both surprised that Florida fires Billy Napier after beating Mississippi State, but Florida is going into a bye week, so I think that gives them a little extra time. Yeah, a little extra time to figure out what's the plan and to get the guys prepared moving forward. Florida is going to be one heck of a job for anybody to take over, not only because it's just a talent-rich area, but just one of those collegiate programs that has a rich history of winning, and haven't seen it as of recently in Gainesville. But best of luck to Billy Napier and whatever is in his future. Hampton, we talk about it. It just seems like it's every year that it's the most jobs that ever come up. But I think this year in particular, as we look at this point and then moving forward, the jobs that are open right now are big time jobs. Penn State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Florida, those are just to name a few that are open. I know that Virginia Tech and UCLA are not on the same level as Penn State and not on the same level as Florida, but there's a lot of other coaches that are in a lot, other positions right now that would love to have any one of those jobs because of the history in each one of them and because of the talent that so much is around UCLA, Penn State, and Florida. To move on to Mike Norvell, we sung Florida State's praises after the first few weeks of college football. Gus Malzahn, a great offensive coordinator hire. I can't remember what the defensive coordinator's name is. Comes from Nebraska.
It's Tim something, isn't it?
Maybe.
Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so we were like, man, Mike Norvell's done it again. This is going to be the year that Florida State figures it out and gets back to not only playing high-end ACC football, but maybe makes it to the college football playoff with beating a big team like Alabama and then following up with some high-scoring games. But ever since ACC play started, Florida State has not been good. It seems like somebody figured out how to contain Castellanos at quarterback, and it's just like the formula's the same all over again. Florida State just lost to Stanford as a 20-point favorite. I know that they were on the road in California playing a late night game. I get that, but that's no excuse to lose the way that you did, especially when you're favored by so much. And I mean, you look at it, the Penn State job from James Franklin. I mean, got fired after losing 2 games like that. Man, you take away the one miraculous season at Florida State, and Mike Norvell's tenure there has not been good. And so I think that we talked about it that if Florida State lost to Alabama, that Mike Norvell was going to lose his job. I did not expect Florida State to beat Alabama and Mike Norvell also lose his job. I didn't picture it happening this way, but I imagine he didn't either. Let me just say this. If you are an agent for a college football coach at this moment, you are going ahead and planning your vacation and go ahead and booking reservations, knowing that there's going to be a payday very, very soon for some major guys. For those that haven't been paid already, Billy Napier's buyout's $50 million. So, I mean, I think that's not even it's not offset by any, if he was to coach anywhere. So, I mean, he's getting 50 mil regardless of what happens. James Franklin said on game day yesterday that he still wants to be into coaching and get back into it. I mean, you did only have 1 week off, so maybe that changes in a few weeks. But Billy Napier getting $50 million doesn't even have to sit at home anymore. So, man, I think you look at it, there's going to be a lot of fans that might be disappointed in who teams hire because there's so many big teams that are looking to make moves, and some of them are going to get the guys they want, and others are going to end up with somebody that they're not necessarily going to love, and then they're not going to be behind. And then they might be in the same place in 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And by the way, Florida State defensive coordinator is Tony White, not Tim.
Tony White.
Tony White. But I'll make this brief. I love Billy Napier. I think Billy Napier is a great dude. I thought what they did last year on the back half was truly impressive and truly awesome. He had 1 foot in the grave from a coaching perspective. Yeah. And he said, I ain't going down like this. Don't shut that coffin on me. And they finished the season strong. A lot of high hopes heading into this year. And I think what ultimately was the detriment of him, kind of like Jimbo Fisher at A&M, like he never relinquished play calling. And I think if he had hired a dedicated offensive coordinator to run that side of the ball and him be more of an overseer of the entire program, still have input into the offense because you are an offensive guy, I think his tenure might have looked a little bit differently. I truly do. They had a really good defense this year, and they have too much talent on offense to put the product out that they've been putting out pretty much this whole season. Also have had bad luck. I mean, DJ Lagway did not practice all spring hardly any in the fall. And you could tell, clearly, you could tell that he was not comfortable. He had not had a ton of reps, and it affected his play on the field. So ultimately, Billy, Sunbelt Billy, I salute my hat off to you. I wish him the best wherever he goes, but that job is open. Florida State is probably coming open, and I'm with you, Graham. Norvell, take Jordan Travis away from him, which you really can't, but the 2 years with him, like the year they went undefeated and the year prior, were the highlight of Mike Norvell. After that and before that, it was abysmal. And I think, again, that fan base deserves better than what they're getting on the field right now. And you made a point about how many jobs are coming open. I cannot remember in recent history this many big time jobs coming open all at the same time. And those are just the ones that are open now. There are going to be a lot more that are about to come open with some ADs and some boosters that are about to be making some decisions. And the issue that people are going to run into, look at Florida, and I'm going to segue into Auburn because we're going to talk about Auburn here in a minute. At Florida, you fired Dan Mullen. Auburn fired Gus Malzahn. Were they ever going to win a championship, I think, at Auburn or Florida? No, I don't think that they were. But you were much better off. Both programs were much better off with those two at the helm than they are currently. Both programs are far worse than they were with the guys that they fired a few years ago. And I think that is the warning or the thing that many ADs need to consider before doing this, because what's going to happen, I'm telling you right now, Graham, there's going to be so many quality job openings, but there's not going to be enough quality head coaches to fill them. So you're going to have guys who get these positions that are not qualified. And then you're going to do this whole cycle. Or not the best fit, exactly. Either you're not qualified or you're not the best fit, and then you're going to be doing the same song and dance 3 or 4 years in the future. And I think
$100 million down the drain, too.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, $100 million down the drain, too.
Yes, and not only that, but take Auburn. We're going to transition to Auburn real quick, and then talk about LSU and Vandy, and then we'll get up on out of here. And I do want to mention before I do that, credit to Georgia for another championship win yesterday against Ole Miss. To be able to win that game when everything was going against you and Ole Miss could not be stopped. Again, Kirby is who he is for a reason, and they just prove it time and time again, except against Alabama. But with Auburn, again, I said it last week, Auburn fans deserve better than this. There's no doubt about it. But Graham, you and I have been very, very vocal about Hugh Freeze. We were vocal this year and we were vocal last year that this guy just isn't a good coach. That this team has way too much talent to consistently fall short in these one-score games, which is what, again, I want to give credit to Brooks Austin, but also I've noticed it too. The SEC this year, there's a lot of one-score games. The talent between the teams are a lot more comparable than they were in the past. So in high leverage and high critical situations, you've got to be able to execute. Auburn does the exact opposite of execution. They do implosion. They do nuclear bomb explosion all over themselves, vomit over themselves at the end of these games in critical moments, and they do it the same way week after week. And then Hugh Freeze goes up to the podium and gaslights you and says, man, we're right there. We're right there, and we got the talent, and I just don't get why we aren't winning these games. I mean, I talked to my coaching buddies, and they're even shocked at it. Look in the mirror, brother. When you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. And that is what is happening with Auburn football right now, and that is the Hugh Freeze play card. because he goes up there. It's all about how close we were, and man, one of these days it's going to break for us. And then when it breaks for us, it's just going to be like a dadgum avalanche that we can't be stopped. And I hate to tell him, Hugh, that ain't the case. And maybe it would help a little bit if you go to the podium and you took accountability for why your teams can't win games. You keep saying, well, we got to find a way to win a close game. How about you put them in positions for them to win games? Maybe when it's 3rd and 8, you don't run your quarterback. Maybe you don't call the same crap. Maybe you give the ball to your running backs. Sorry, my voice is hoarse and I'm about to lose it. But maybe you give the ball to your running back, Jeremiah Cobb, that's averaging like 6 yards a carry this year. No, instead, you want to air it out and throw it like you're the 99 Rams. You got to look in the mirror as to why this is not working. And you're consistently letting your defense down week after week after week, and then going up to the podium trying to gaslight your fans like that we're so close. Well, guess what? The great Carole King sang, so close but yet so far away. All right, you're far away from winning right now. I don't care. Well, one play there, one play there. We can play the if and but game all day long. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. Hugh Freeze, I will be shocked. I mean, I'm shocked I hadn't gotten a notification on my phone that he's out of there now. Because if I were an Auburn, I know Auburn fans are disgusted with him. Mickey, Logan, I love Mickey and Logan. I love you both, and I'm sorry that you're having to endure this, but it's time to move on because your boosters bought you a heck of a roster, and you got a guy coaching it that isn't maximizing the potential of said roster, and part of that is because he doesn't know how to properly evaluate and develop a quarterback. End rant. Graham, how do you react to that? And again, I'm saying this not as an Alabama fan. I'm saying this as a pure watcher of college football. It's crazy how we go through the same song and dance at Auburn.
Yeah. We need to save that clip for all eternity. I mean, if you're listening to the show right now, you just got not only one of the most intense rants that Hampton Sippers ever brought to the Pigskin Cafe, but you got slogans, you got quotes, and you even got some singing in there. I mean, you got the whole package. You got the whole package of rants in that little
all for
clip
the price
right
of
there.
one, baby. That's how
All
we do
for
it
the
at the
price
Pigskin
of one.
Cafe.
Yeah. Man, Hampton, I'm just gonna say this. There's some people that live for like recruiting for colleges and stuff like that. I love the coaching carousel. To me, that's the most fun thing about college football is
Right.
that because I mean it's very similar to the recruiting cycle in the sense of several teams are competing for the same guy, and then it's like, well, even those that thought that one pick was going to be perfect and made sense, they're going to be so successful, end up not being, or vice versa. They thought that a bum that nobody knew of, we settled for blank, and then they're a great coach and really changed the trajectory of not only like the culture of the culture of the team, but the culture of the school in general. I mean, you can name countless people that have done that and are currently doing that in the positions they are now. For Auburn, man, I've said it before. I'll say it again, and it will reign true for as long as the tenure of Hugh Freeze exists at Auburn. There are coaches that just find ways to win, and I mean, I'm just going to say it again and again and again. Hugh Freeze is not one of those dudes. He's just not.
Nope.
He's not at Auburn. Maybe there's maybe somewhere else. And the truth is, sometimes good coaches just can be in a bad fit, in a bad system, in a bad place for their career. And maybe that's true for Billy Napier. Maybe that's true for James Franklin at the end. Maybe that's true for we haven't talked about Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Maybe that's true for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Maybe that's true for Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Man, I think the culmination of that whole game comes down to the fourth down and 15 or whatever it was, knowing that you had to score, and man, you get you get lined up. You got one timeout in your pocket, and you don't even use it. Once you line up, you just call the play like, "Hey, this is what we're going to run." Doesn't matter what the defense lines up like. To me, I'm looking at it set up. All right, let's call a timeout. Let's make sure that's what we're comfortable with. Make sure that Jackson Arnold understands what he's supposed to do. Make sure everybody's on the same page. And just lay out the the details of the play to make sure that everybody gets everybody does what they need to, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But they just call the play, and I mean, boom, snap it with plenty of time on the clock, and then the game ends. I feel bad for the Auburn fans, I know, because it's I hate to say it's sad, but they've gotten so used to it that they've honestly lost like some of the hope that they have of and some of that kind of love and passion for the game of knowing they stand a chance every week. It's like whenever it's close, Auburn's going to lose with Hugh Freeze as the coach. For not their fault or their fault, whoever you want to blame it on. That Auburn team is talented enough to not. I mean, they're talented enough to be a 1-loss to 2-loss team at this very moment.
Yeah.
And you look at it. I mean, you look at it, and they are 0-4 to start SEC play, 3-4 total. Man, I think that I don't know whether Hugh Freeze is going to keep his job this week or not. But they've got Arkansas on the road. If that's not the final straw, if Auburn loses that one, then then I don't know what to tell you. I think that the boosters at Auburn, the fans at Auburn are passionate, and they deserve better than to lose by one score game after game after game after game, and then have the have the talk every week of, oh, we're so close, we're right there. When you are, but the reason why you are having that conversation is because the person that's talking at the podium, not because of the result on the field. So, man, like I said, I think that the team's too talented for Auburn to be like that. And I think that when you look at it, the way that Auburn's season is lining up, I don't know why you don't have Deuce Knight playing some quarterback for Auburn. I don't know why you don't have him under center getting some reps. Maybe because you're 3-4, you got to win. You got to win 3 more games to be bowl eligible, and that still might not be enough for Hugh Freeze. But right now, you're not making the SEC championship game. You're not making the college football playoff. So why not get your 5-star recruit Deuce Knight some playing time with some of those big time receivers that you have to try and get them to stay next year when they're probably not going to want to. So, man, I enjoy this time. I enjoy this time of year because the coaching carousel is so much fun, and just seeing the chess pieces that move around to one thing leads to another. I think it's a lot of fun. But for Auburn, I think they're learning their lesson from getting rid of Gus when they did and the way they did. I think that Auburn is trying to they're trying to figure out their next step before they make this one, which I would consider to be very wise.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, when you talked about, like, Auburn fans, like, almost expecting and waiting for the inevitable to happen, and they've kind of lost, that sense of hope. All I can think of is, you've lost that love and feeling. Oh, that love and feeling. They're just aimless and directionless because they know what to expect, because it is a hallmark of his team and what he does in critical situations. And the last, I'll say three things on Hugh. Get your reaction, then we'll move on to LSU, and then we'll get on out of here. Number one, the way that he handled the Damari Alston situation, especially publicly. I don't have a problem per se of you not allowing him to be on the team when he asked for a red shirt. I can get that. I understand that, even though I think the kid, I get it from his perspective too. It's his final year. He's a captain, and you're not playing him, and you're not giving him the ball, and he's putting his body on the line for you for like 2 or 3 snaps a game. He's got to look out for the best interests of himself, and he had committed to staying on with you, doing scout team, doing everything he could to help the team win. But yet, when you go to the podium, you say that he is dismissed from the football program due to failure to meet the program's expectations, which insinuates that he did something from a moral or character perspective that got him kicked off the team. That's just sleazy to me, to be quite honest with you. Like, you can put it in a way that doesn't demean the kid, but you also protect your football team and you protect your program. He did not do that. He poured gasoline on the fire because, again, Hugh loves throwing players under the bus. He has done it throughout his entire tenure at Auburn. Number two, one reason that Hugh and Auburn struggles is because he has not evolved his offensive scheme from 2013 to 2014. I said this when they hired him, and I've said it throughout. 2013, 2014, his offenses were very effective. One, because they had good players, but two, that was when the RPO craze was hitting college football and defenses had not yet adjusted to it. Now everybody runs that. Everybody runs RPOs, and so they're accustomed to those looks and they have a better idea how to defend it. So you haven't evolved past that, and you wonder why your offense doesn't look the way that you think that it should with the talent that it has, and then you don't utilize the best aspect of your offense, which is your rushing game. I know you have weapons on the outside, but that is not the strength of your team, but yet you are stubborn as a mule and don't run the football. And number three, John Cohen, if he doesn't fire Hugh Freeze this week, what he is about to do to Auburn is you're going to fire Hugh Freeze later in the cycle, and all of the top candidates for these other jobs, for a Penn State, for a Florida State, for a Florida, for a Wisconsin that's probably going to come open, for Virginia Tech, for UCLA, you're going to get like the sixth or seventh guy down the rung because they're going to be plucking all the top candidates that you probably would want if you don't get out ahead of this. So that, to me, is a word of caution to John Cohen, because I'm sure he's a smart man and listens to the Pigskin Cafe, but that is something that if I'm an Auburn fan, I would be really worried about, of him not being proactive in this situation, Graham.
Yeah, I think the thing for Auburn fans is that the worst thing for them to do is what they're going through right now is you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see. There's no definitive answer as to what's going to happen. You know, I said it. I was talking to somebody this morning at church, and they said that they went to the game last night, and as soon as they went to overtime, they went ahead and left the stadium. They were like, "We'll watch it," but they just left because they're like they already knew how the story was going to end, and sure enough, they were proven right. Man, you hate it for Auburn fans. You know, you just do. Now let's shift to Vanderbilt and LSU. Man,
let's do it.
I'm going to say that, I mean, the game of the week by far in college football. Vanderbilt is a tough team, and LSU is, in a sense, kind of found their way out of the college football playoff at the moment, pending them not turning it around. Diego Pavia. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Diego Pavia had, a Heisman game if there was one, not necessarily just statistically wise, but that whenever it's a clutch play that's required, that Diego Pavia is going to make that play, and LSU just couldn't face it. They just couldn't handle what Diego Pavia and this Vanderbilt offense was able to do, and because of that, College Game Day is going to Nashville for Vanderbilt and Missouri this week. Yeah. Man, Diego Pavia, just go over some stats, and then then we'll get through it. 160 yards in the air, 1 touchdown throwing, 86 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns rushing. I mean, you watch the game, and in big moments, you see Pavia making plays with his feet. Sometimes just to extend the play, but other times is to run for touchdowns. Man, I think if you're LSU, the way that you start off the season, I mean, the trajectory's just gone out the window because the big win at Clemson is not big anymore, and then you've had some tough losses down the road. So I don't know where you go if you're LSU, or if Brian Kelly's gonna find his way elsewhere, since we just got done with the coaching carousel conversation. But Vanderbilt is a dang good football team, and I don't think that people. I'm not going to say they don't give the respect they deserve, but I think that it's kind of like, Diego Pavia, they just kind of figured out. This team, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the most talented, but they have a true identity, and we talked about it 2 weeks ago whenever Alabama played them. They had a true identity, and they just know what they do well, and they continue to do that over and over again. So shout out to Clark Lee and shout out to Vanderbilt. The few fans they do have, they deserve this right now.
What a dig, Graham, of the few fans that you have. Yeah, I'll start on the Vanderbilt side, and then we'll transition and end with the LSU aspect of things. Clark Lee, the job that he's done at Vanderbilt is probably one of the best coaching jobs that I can remember in my lifetime. Like truly changing the direction of a program and in a radical way. I mean, Vandy was the laughing stock of the SEC. Let's not get it twisted. And right now they're sitting at 6-1 in control of their own destiny to get to the college football playoff, to possibly get to the SEC championship. I mean, what they've done is so impressive. And what you said, Graham, about them having an identity is 100% true. They know who they are. They know how to win ball games. They know how to execute in high leverage situations. And Diego Pavia is a certified baller. Their system is really hard to prepare for with all the eye candy, with all the motions, with all of the ways that they kind of manipulate your keys as a defense, what you're keying in on. They'll have a guard pulling this way. It looks like the run is going this way. Then they'll pop someone out the opposite direction. And he is just kind of like a master conductor operating it at an ultra effective level. And they got a lot of talent on that team. Not only with him, but, running back wise, Cedric Alexander went out. The backup came in. He popped off a 30, 40-yard run. Sherrill, I talked about him 2 weeks ago when Alabama played him. Stowers is a baller. And their defense is a pretty dang good defense. I don't think they're elite by any stretch, but they're a good defense. And they made it tough on LSU throughout that game. And to me, the key moment in the game is LSU gets the ball back down 31-24. They go 3 and out. And then they punt the ball to Vandy, and Vandy never gives them the ball back. That is winning football in the SEC. And the last note I'll say on Vandy before we flip the page to LSU, all I heard about was that this LSU defense was elite, like how Blake Baker had fixed everything. That defense ain't elite. I mean, come on, guys. Let's be honest. They got a lot of talented football players on that team. No question about it. And Diego Pavia definitely just made some incredible plays against them. But that's 2 games against premier quarterbacks in Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss and now Diego Pavia, where they run it all over you and they make high leverage, critical throws and passes in those moments to win the football game. I mean, that's not an elite unit by any stretch of imagination. And then offensively, they can't run the ball. I know they had a big run yesterday by Harlan Berry, the freshman, but they're not consistent in running the ball, and they hadn't been this year. Nussmeier played, I thought, probably his best game of the year yesterday. If I had to say, but I think we need to have a conversation about Brian Kelly, because again, LSU can win out and they can get in the playoff, 100%, no doubt about it. What do I think the likelihood of them winning out is? Not very high. They still got Oklahoma, they still got Alabama, and they still have Texas A&M. I don't think they're going unscathed through that. And I can't remember who they have this week. It's another, SEC
A&M.
team that they have to face.
Play A&M this week.
Oh, they're playing A&M this week.
Yep.
Okay, well then I think they're losing that one. But now watch them come out with a big victory and make me look silly. But Brian Kelly has too much dang talent at LSU that if they don't go to the playoffs this year, he's been there 4 years and you have no playoff appearances? None? And you had Jaden Daniels, number 2 pick in the draft, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas in 2023, and you couldn't field a defense worth the dirt. And that was one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life. Then last year, you had Nussmeier, who was, one of the hot up-and-coming quarterbacks. He had a good bit of talent on that team, but the defense still wasn't all the way fixed. And then this year was supposed to be the year. It was supposed to be the year that Nussmeier comes back for. You got the defense back. You added guys in the portal. Patrick Payton, Jack Pyborn, Major Delane out on the outside at corner. You added all these pieces. Put Harold Perkins at star. And it was supposed to be the best LSU team since 2019. And you've already got 2 losses with a few more staring you down. And in all reality, I mentioned this at the beginning of 2023 when they lost Florida State. We did a reel on this. You can go check it out on our Instagram. Him beating Alabama his first year completely changed the perception of him at LSU. I'm not saying you can take away a win, but if you go back and look at especially his first year when they won the SEC championship, they got blown out 2 or 3 times. Then they got blown out against Florida State, and then they've had issue after issue after issue, and they got too much talent to not be at least in the college football playoff. And so I'm with you, Graham. I'm not of the mind that they're going to fire Brian Kelly unless it goes woefully bad. But I could definitely see him leaving because I've never thought from the jump that Brian Kelly and LSU were a good fit at all. Especially when you talk about my family, talking like you Caleb Crawdad from The Office. Like, I just never thought that they were a good fit together. So they're going to be a very interesting situation to watch down the stretch because if that job comes open, then we thought the coaching carousel was going to be crazy. That will add just another dynamic storyline that we'll have to monitor throughout the year.
Yeah, it's been a good week of college football, and I think it's even not only set us up for this next week going forward, but the trajectory of teams in the rest of the season, but the trajectory of the next few years, where they're going to win out, not win out, fire their coach, keep their coach, hire the right one, hire the wrong one, and how that's going to change college football from this time forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. It was a great week of college football. It was fun breaking it all down here with you again today, man. And we will be back next week to recap Alabama, South Carolina, and all the other exciting games that will be going on that will have major implications for, playoff contention because we are getting to that time of year now. We're in game, we got game 7 behind us. Now we're going into game 8. This is where teams start to separate from pretenders and contenders. We can't wait to break it all down here with you. If you made it this far, and again, if you haven't subscribed, we're on our way to 400. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and hit that notification bell. We'll be back next week to recap all the exciting college football action, but the Pigskin Cafe is going to be closed for now. But until next week, chew on that.